Okay, I have some really big news. I've just added this whole new section on effects in my course, which includes not only how and where to use all the main effects, but better yet, I go into effect combinations, as personally, some effects work really, really well when they're used together. Now, I also go into where and when to use them and how often to use them to bring a new level of professionalism to the way you mix. So anyway, really excited about that. But anyway, in today's video, right, I quickly want to talk about the effects you will find on club mixes. Now, you may have noticed by now, I do lean towards preparing people to playing clubs, as running clubs and DJing was what I did full time for like almost 20 years. So it's best to talk, right? And I feel sorry, it's best for me to talk. I can share my experience with you, and my goal is about getting people club ready. That's my thing right now. I really want to emphasize though one thing, and that is, all DJ gear does share the same features. So for instance, when teaching people, it's about teaching people how to DJ. And once you know how to DJ, you can apply that to absolutely all gear and all software. So for instance, do you think if you gave Salvador Dali a paintbrush, right, and asked him to paint, he would say, "No, sorry man, I only know how to paint with my brushes"? Now, of course not. Now, sure, he would prefer to use his own tools, just like you would prefer to use your own gear in clubs. But the harsh truth is, right, when turning up to play at events, right, the chances are, well, at least until you have a name for yourself, right? See, when you got a name for yourself, then you get more control, more influence. But the venue is going to expect you to use their equipment, right? As let's face it, right, quite often there may be no room for you to put your gear. And if you turn up and you start unplugging stuff and you're trying to put your gear in, people may consider you to be difficult to work with. And like I said, you can only pull that off once you already have some influence in the scene. So long story short, if you are DJing at club events, right, chances are you're going to have to use whatever equipment they have. Now, yes, I agree. Most modern controllers are better than the club gear. Actually, they have more features. Not to mention they've got really cool performance pads, which really opens up DJing to new levels and new potentials. And on top of that, I honestly feel the Denon gear also feels amazing, and it's a joy to use. And to be honest, if Denon manages to become the industry standard in clubs, I'll switch to Denon in a second, right? But all I'm saying is making the switch from Pioneer to Denon or vice versa isn't as hard as you think. Like, a true DJ can play on absolutely anything, and gear nor software, it doesn't matter. Essentially, they all do the same thing, and you're going to notice that the main features are all pretty similar, even where their placement, right? So in this video, right, I'm going to do a walkthrough of the effects that you're going to find on most Pioneer club mixes and how to use those effects. But before I quickly do like a necessary walkthrough of some of the main components of using effects, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, right, I feel obligated to say that I personally feel being a good DJ is not going to come down to how good you are at using effects. So for many, many years, I DJed without using that much effects at all. And I often, like, people who came to my events, you know, often really, I had a lot of supporters, and some rated me as the best they'd ever heard. But again, they might be biased, but anyways, whatever. But here's the thing. I can't emphasize enough, right? The way that you arrange your tracks and, you know, the way you put it together and, you know, you use your EQ, that's probably one of the most important things in your song selection, being able to read the crowd. But I think once you've mastered that, you've got really cool arrangement skills down, you're a great DJ, then you can use effects to kind of like heighten those transitions. Now, personally, right, you got to be careful how often you use them though. So when I was using, say you've got like spin backs, for instance, right? Like, you're not going to do spin backs every single transition, you know, nor with echo. You know, these are kind of like sort of, you know, they're not bad, but if you're using echo every single transition you do or a spin back, it's going to get old pretty fast. So the key is to kind of use effects in a way that kind of, you know, makes them kind of cool. So let's say, for instance, when I was like younger, sometimes I just might filter out slightly. So that means hop on the filter here with the color effects and just filter out the song. So I'm getting rid of it. I go like that, for instance. But if I'm doing that, like, I might not do it there, but you know, that's one method. I could use the filter to filter out, and as opposed to using the EQ sometimes, right? Now, if I'm doing that every single time, I'll be honest, it gets old. But if I do it occasionally, people hear a little effect and it's like, oh, cool. But if you're doing it all the time, it does get old. So again, I think I mentioned this, but I really treat effects like icing on the cake. And I personally think, right, the cake is how you use your EQ and your arrangement and the main skills of DJing that can be applied to any equipment. But effects, right, they're like the icing. So if your cake's kind of shit to start with, the icing's not going to make it, well, it might, no, well, see, maybe that's not the best example, but the icing's not really, it might become this mess. But if you've got a beautiful cake, and then you add the icing, then it can be truly delicious the way that you mix. So again, let's treat it little bits in small doses, I find. So okay, but anyway, let's jump onto this mixer here. So this is a pretty standard like Pioneer mixer that you'll find in clubs. This one here actually, like personally, I actually have a few mixers here at my school, and I would usually probably be gravitating towards my other mixer, which is the 900 Nexus. And they're all pretty much the same, but the reason I've chosen to do this video using the 750 Mark II is this one's fairly newer, and I just wanted to show you a new feature they had here on the Beat Effects rack where it's got like frequency control, and that's on some of the zone mixers too, but might not be on a lot of controllers, but I want to show you that. But firstly, let's say you're turning up to a club, you're using their gear, and you're like, okay, where are the effects and how are they similar to your controllers, to do a little bit of a comparison. So first of all, you have two effect racks here, right? So you have the color effects across here, and then you have the beat effects down here, okay? Now, the color effects, I guess they color the sound somewhat, and the beat effects manipulate the beats. So let's just have a quick look. So on a lot of controllers, especially the low-end controllers, like the cheaper ones, this is the color effect. And when I turn that, well, let's say on this channel here, you have to select the effect. Now on many cheaper controllers, that will be filter, right? And that, to be honest, is probably the main color effect, the one I'm definitely using the most. So if I have filter on here, and I can turn that's high, okay, and that's low pass filter. Now, personally, okay, I love filter, okay? I think it's probably one of the best effects, and I think that high pass filter there, I think that's really like how I would use that. It's probably to pull back on the end of the phrase to make the one kick in. And if you listen to producers, quite often they do that naturally in the song anyway. And that's like, in my course, I talk about hearing the ones and coming in with the changes. And quite often what they'll do is they'll pull back to make the one hit. It's kind of called a trigger or an end of phrase marker. So I could actually essentially say I'm about to do a mix, and I've got a video, actually, I'll link it in now, where it's like using some effects and filter. And it's like, I've got this method where I've got them down and I'm kind of like doing that before the drop, and it pulls back and then hide the transition in the effects, and that's actually really cool. But I think high pass filter, a good rule of thumb would be pulling back to make the ones hit. And then the low pass filter, sometimes I use that, like I just mentioned, to maybe get the song out. Then also you have a few on here, like noise is pretty cool. But noise, here's the thing, noise is the only effect here that actually operates without needing a track playing. So say I've got that on, I can go here and be like, and that just operates. And on some things you might have a parameter where you can kind of turn it up, so it's like, so I have that. And I see some people there in there doing like volume cuts with that. But let's say that takes a fair bit of skill, getting the volume cutting. I could probably do a video in the future where it's like really going in with the things, but it's heading a little bit towards scratching too, and hopping on here, and and I'll be honest, it comes down to how much time you have to develop those skills. Like, it's not 100% necessary, but it can be cool. But here's the thing, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I actually like combining like beat effects with the color effects. So what you could do is I could put an echo. So over here on the beat effects now, I could go grab echo, and up here you can grab how intense you want the effect to be. So you got beat effects here, and I've got echo, and at the moment that would be echoing one beat, that would be 3/4 beats, half beat, and then you can turn the beat effects on here with the little button, right? So if that's not on, I've got an effect on, that's not going to do anything, but I've got the button, that will then apply the effect to whichever, and I'll give you more example, but apply it. And I'll get to all this in a second, but I just want to quickly show you noise with echo. See, noise without echo, right? I'm there and I'm doing that. With echo, let's say I've got the echo on, I could be like, actually, sorry, what happened? Okay. Rookie mistake, right? It's funny, I'm like on there, I'm like, why was it not doing it? Because the thing is, you have to apply the beat effects to a particular channel. So right now, I've actually applied that to channel 3, and I just go over here to channel 1, my apologies. So, okay, so I go in, I'm like, see, it's kind of cool. And so like, you could be like, and it gets that, as opposed to just, That's what people do. And that's the thing. See, people are going in, they understand some effects, but it's about combining the effects sometimes. So that there I'm like bang, but with an echo on it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, I might do a video coming up where I've got that used in an example, but for now, I'm just showing you that's noise, and you could actually add some stuff to it and kind of make your own thing. Like if I went a half beat, maybe I could be like, yeah, that kind of stuff, you know. So actually, that's what I mean about bringing it together. I go into way more detail in my course, but still, that's not a bad little start. Then we actually have also an echo on the color effects here. So again, it's not going to do anything. None of them do anything besides noise unless the song's playing. So the effect, you apply the effect to the song playing. So say this is playing, and I add an echo. I guess how people would do it is it'll be coming to an end of a phrase, and then I just echo out. Maybe it could be like, and then I bring my new song in. And a lot of people use echo to do BPM shifts. So all of a sudden it's ending, I put a little bit of echo, and then maybe I come in with another song and just sort of hide the transition. See, that's the thing, you got to be careful. Yeah, you can actually hide bad transitions probably with echo, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying we've got to master our transitions first, become really, really good DJs, and then use the effects in a way that enhances your transitions. If you're hiding bad transitions with effects, like it's a little bit dodgy. You need to get the skills right. And just going on this tiny little tangent here, when I was working on this set recently, I was putting it together and I had everything, all these effects, and I listened back and it was a mess, and I thought, okay, let's just break it back down, and I just got all the arrangement done properly first. So I had everything going beautifully, and then once I had the arrangement, the songs flowing nicely, then I started introducing effects. And I feel that if you jump straight for the effects, I know, say you're young, you've got your new controller, you just want to go straight for the effects, that wouldn't be my advice. It would be master DJing first. Then once your cake is strong, then add the icing. Okay, anyway. Okay, so there we got one. And then you've got sweep here as well. And sweep, and sometimes people refer to it as gate as well. It kind of does the same thing. And what that does is, well, firstly, if I go this way, that sounds to me a lot like filter. See this? I have that there, and now I'll go to filter. It sounds pretty similar. But it's when I start going the low, and what that does is it starts cutting out frequencies. Now in my course, I actually, sorry to plug the course, it's my baby, that's what I love. But this is just giving you some idea. You can mess around on your own, but I'm just saying that I break it down a lot better there. But in the course, right, what happens is I can use that to maybe, let's say I've got a song playing that's got a lot going on and I want to mix on it. Or sometimes you might be playing and maybe the outro, the chorus, it's like there's no distinct place where you can mix. There's just stuff happening the whole time. By me applying some sweep or gate and pulling back on the frequencies, maybe I could, that would be kind of cool. I could create less. I'd take some of the frequencies out and create a platform of sorts for me to come in and do kind of like a funky transition. That's actually a lot of fun too. So, okay, so there are your color effects, okay, over here. But then what happens, you've got your beat effects, and then I've got heaps, like I've got about a dozen. On some of the like earlier models, maybe you've only got like a few, but here you've got heaps of effects. But again, it's probably the main effects. Like if you've got a controller and you're running the controller through your computer, you're probably going to have a lot more effects to choose from. You can even download extra effects. So there's probably not as many effects on the club gear as there are on most controllers, okay? But and sometimes also they might be positioned in slightly different places. So say for a lot of controllers, maybe you've got the effect up here where you can go tell like they'll probably actually auto put what they think are the main effects on there, but you can go in and program those effects and put pretty much these effects usually, like, you know, some kind of delay or some kind of echo or, you know, some kind of something that manipulates the sound. Well, but these are the sound somewhat, but these are sort of like the main ones, but you can go do it there. And sometimes also you can actually program them to the pads, but they're generally all the same kind of thing and they all generally do the same stuff. It's just it might be positioned slightly different. So okay, so let's say you're used to using echo on your pads and you're like, okay, how do I do that on the club gear? Well, just go pick echo, okay? And then let's say you've got on your pads, they'll already have some presets, like some presets for you there, like what they think's good. But let's say you want an echo and a half beat. See up here, you can select how intense you want the echo to be. So I've selected echo here. I select the channel I want to apply it to. So let's say you want to do it on this side, that's in channel 2, put that to channel 2. Then you've got 1 beat, 3/4, half, quarter, and you can actually change that up here. Now, so let's say that's playing. Okay, and I'll do a 3/4 beat to start with. I've got it on there, I'll be like, okay. Right, cool. A half. Right, and then a quarter. And you play around with what you think's good for you. Okay, but there are different ways to control that as well. So not only can we control the intensity up here, but you can also control the level or depth of the intensity with this here, like with the little level of depth knob. So what happens is, if I've got that down to 0, and let's say I go and apply the effect, have a listen, you're not going to hear anything because there's nothing there. And this means that I can use that. Right, cool. And I actually don't mind that. I know a lot of people just have that on the whole time and they just turn it on and off here. But this here allows me to kind of control it a little bit better. So let's say you're hitting the effects and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? By using this, I can almost use it to sort of come in from underneath. I get a little bit of control. So they say midnight there is actually just how the effect's at its best. So I could just probably roll it to there. And then if I want to go more intense and create a little build up of sorts, maybe I could take it further. But so that there, know how when you bass swap, kind of like coming in, it's almost like we're coming in. I'm doing the same thing here, I'm coming in. But another point I want to make though, okay, now that I mentioned bass as well, have a listen to it. Let's say I'm doing that and I've got that on, okay, and I come in, I'm like, it's a little bit nutty, okay? And yeah, sure, I'd probably approach that echo and I'd probably be doing it near the end of the phrase as my new song kicks in and all that stuff. But to be honest, the sound itself is a little bit dirty. And what I find is effects really work well when there's probably less bass, okay? So that's where this comes in. So what I'd say is if I took out the low frequency there and made it less bassy on the effect sounds a little crisper. Have a listen. Okay, so I've got that. Okay, wait, okay. Right, or see, it makes it a little less, not so, listen, it's like, okay, right, or I'll do that. See, it's a little bit lighter, okay, but here's the thing, not all the equipment, even controllers, have this frequency range where you can affect the frequency of the EQ. Now, if you do have this mixer and some of the newer mixers where you have that option, I see a lot of people, and I'd do the same thing, I would just have the low off the whole time because it just makes it a little bit muddy. I really think that's a good way to start with using that. But let's say you don't have this frequency control. What you do is, well, to be honest, let's say I'm mixing out of that song, and quite often I'll be applying the effects to the song I'm mixing out of. Maybe I could just have the bass down. So let's say then I'm playing, and I'm getting rid of it. See, it's a lot nicer, okay? And then see, this is where I start bringing all the effects together. And say it's still sitting a little loud in the mix, well then you could start approaching, like using some filter on the effect too. So let's say that's playing, oops, sorry, okay. I'll probably do it, okay, let's say I'm mixing a new song and I'm gonna echo this out, okay. Okay, and then with your new song coming in, that'd be pretty sweet. But at the moment, this is more about, okay, finding the effects, finding where they are, being able to like make the switch from, let's say you're used to your controller, turning up to a club and making that whole process less daunting for you. So, okay. So you have echo, different ways that you can use that, different effects, and then you've got all that for different ones really. So another one that I just did the video on recently, there's like roll, and I can go in here, select roll, and that's sort of like selecting how many beats you want to hold. So let's say I go there, I've got 1 beat, so let's say this is playing, okay, and I could be like 1 beat, okay, half beat, okay, cool, and all these different effects, play around with them. But yeah, so in short, I'll be honest, you can probably find most of the effects there. And let's say you're used to doing all these gun techniques on your controller. Well, to be honest, if you're running the events and if they're your events or you're running your own parties, 100% take your own controller. And there might be some clubs where you can take your controller too, but I think knowing how to use the club gear is probably a good skill to have. And let's say that just means you can't quite do what you do. Well, like I mentioned, effects don't make the DJ. When you're playing live, it's probably not so much about gunning effects the whole time. It's probably about the arrangement, putting the songs together in a way that creates atmosphere on your dance floor. And if some effects, you might have to pull back on some of the effects that you do on your controller onto here and just apply sometimes the main ones. And we can still, trust me, you can still do plenty. You can do plenty on here. These mixes, they are really, really good. So, okay. Anyway, guys, love making these videos. Hopefully that's been helpful. My goal really is with this video just to kind of show you some things to be careful of when using effects, and also to demystify the whole club gear and be scared of that. Like, honestly, if you're a good DJ, you should be able to play on whatever gear is in front of you. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so and I guess the only one that might be really tricky is maybe then vinyl, because vinyl operates slightly different. Like that would, but still, if you put vinyls in front of me, I grew up actually doing vinyls, so it wouldn't be. Yes, I would have to adjust slightly. I'd have to figure it out. Like if I just turned up to a club and played on vinyl, that wouldn't probably go too well. But if I had 3 hours to mess around before I had to play on vinyl, I think I'd be right. So once you know how to DJ, you can apply those concepts to absolutely everything. Anyway, cool, man. Love it. Thank you.